Hi, this is Mark Little. This is going to be my continuation of the series on mindset. I do all these videos explaining at least our methodology on how to consistently exceed the expectations of ideal clients if you're a financial advisor in the retail side. So if you're advising individuals and families, we've developed a method that consistently exceeds the expectations of affluent families, all right? But as I've told you, these three skills that we tend to cover, and feel free to watch all of them. I cut these videos because I know financial advisors, same as I was 20 years ago, like to know the process before they start implementing. So, they're looking at what I'm providing and they're deciding if, offering that level of service is really for you or not. I mean, because it takes quite a bit of effort if you're going to consistently exceed the expectations of affluent, successful families. But this series on mindset, really, my recommendation is if you watch only one set of videos, it's going to be the mindset series, because all the other stuff is how we do what we do. That's not what success is all about. I've said in many of these videos that I've known a lot of really successful financial advisors over the years, and I've known a lot of financial advisors that are great people, actually great technicians, really good at what they do, but they don't quite achieve the success that they were looking for. So that's why I'm doing the series on mindset, because it's always a mindset issue. You could be really good at the technical side of financial services and still not succeed or not achieve the goals that you set out to achieve in the business. Okay, so what are we talking about today? It's alignment. So I'm going to talk about, how to get yourself perfectly aligned with what we do for our clients. All right, what do I mean? Well, if I were to ask you what you do, and I always do this just for laughs because all of us kind of describe what we do a little bit different way. But my business coach, and this goes back over 20 years, my business coach, and if you're in the financial services industry, you'll know the name, Bill Bachrach. This was my business coach. And by the way, the problem with the really great business coaches is they can only handle a certain number of people. And, I would always recommend that you look at Bill Bachrach, Bachrach and Associates, and if they are taking on clients, you'd be privileged to work with them. That's who really turned me into the successful advisor that everything that I'm teaching now, I owe to them. But what I'm talking about is, Bill made a comment one time around this topic of what we do. He said, your job is to get your client's financial house in order and keep it that way for the rest of their life. And I go, yes, it is. That is very correct. So you would agree with that, wouldn't you? That's our job. We're supposed to get our client's financial house in perfect order, and they're paying us to keep it that way for the rest of their life. What I'm talking about in alignment is your house in perfect order. So I'm going to cover three areas where you are very visible and people are judging you: clients, staff, other peers in our industry who interact with you. I'm going to show you three touch points that are the acid test on whether you appear to be well aligned with this objective of having your house in order. All right, so I'm going to focus on your desk, your office, and your car. Now, I'm probably taking this in a little bit different direction than you thought I was. But what I'm talking about is do the physical manifestations of your life. That is, when somebody comes into your office and sits down at your desk, is it immaculate? I can tell you, speaking for myself, when I first started working with my business coach 25 years ago, no, it's like a little scraps of paper and Post-it notes. I remember my accountability coach, Ann Bachrach. And again, if Ann's accepting clients, you would be in really good shape if she would accept you as a client. But because we all need accountability. But her comment was, Mark, what are all these Post-it notes around your computer monitor? And she says, that should be free of paper. There shouldn't be a piece of paper on your desk. I mean, there shouldn't be stacks of papers or files, anything. And on the credenza over there, it should be spotless. What if a potential client just stopped in unannounced and said, hey, I have a significant financial issue. Could I sit down and talk for a minute? And you go, sure, come on in. And you bring them into your office as you're moving files out of the chair, and what a mess. Well, there are systems in place where, and this is what I came to find out, if you make that your goal, that I'm going to have a desk and an office that's spotless, then you can make that happen. And you can make that happen in days and not weeks. You could actually make it your goal that this time next week, your desk, your office, and I'm saying greater office, so everybody that works for you likewise has a clean desk and there's nothing cluttering anything anywhere in the office. That can be the case, as well as your car. And the reason I say car, and I added the car kind of in at the last minute, because I remember my father, when I was a kid, my father was a big shot executive at a major corporation owned by Exxon, so in a different industry. But he would fly around the country because he was in charge of everything west of the Mississippi for this big corporation. And he would go around and hire regional managers and people in his corporation. He would hire multi-six-figure people, and he always offered to pick them up at the airport. And he wanted them to pick him up at the airport. So he'd fly into a city. He wants them to pick him up. And he'd say, here, let me just put my suitcase in your trunk. Because he judged people on how neat and clean their trunk was. And that was always a big wake-up call to me. Because I don't know about you, but until I started thinking about this, my trunk, not so nice. So I'm saying, if you make it a goal, this time next week, your desk, your office, your trunk could be spotless, and keep it that way for the rest of your life. How is that? Well, I'm going to share a little story with you. It was actually my business coach, Bill Bachrach, who I observed on this topic. But I noticed in working with him for a while, and I'll tell you, if you know Bill Bachrach, this will be something that you don't know about him. If you go into his office, it's spotless, just like I described. Anywhere in his house, his living room, his dining room, his kitchen. You go into his garage. You go into the little sub-garage next to his garage. You know, the place where you store the Christmas decorations? It's all perfectly immaculate. There is not a thing on the garage floor. It's polished and buffed, and what boxes there are, they're stacked and labeled beautifully. How does somebody do this? And I asked him, how is it that you keep everything so clean? Are you just a neat freak? He says, no, I just make it my goal to leave a room better than I found it. Now, don't let that simple thought escape you. Don't let it just run past. The more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, that's doable. Every time I enter a room, I'm going to look around for something wrong. If I see a little piece of paper on the floor, if I see a book out of place, if I see something that's untidy or dirty, I'm just going to, when I leave the room, I'm going to leave this room a little better than it was when I came in. And that's a small task, wouldn't you agree? So I sat down, and this is 25 years ago. I thought, how could I be like Bill? How could I have like a spotless desk? My office is immaculate. My trunk is always clean and my car is clean. I thought, a lot of these things are just little short tasks. Like, it's amazing how much you can get done in 5 minutes. Have you ever thought about that? Like, if I gave you 5 minutes right now and we took it on a stopwatch and I said, I want you to do whatever you can in the next 5 minutes to make your desk a little cleaner than it was before. Do you think you could make progress in 5 minutes? Do you think after 5 minutes of doing whatever you do that I could look at your desk and say, that looks better? Well, I'm telling you, it is the case. So I want you to think about this one, and I'll leave you with this thought. How many 5-minute tasks could you fit in to an average day? And I'm not talking about once a week or twice a week. I'm talking about every single day. That's how Bill does it. every time he enters any room, his goal is, while he's talking with you or whatever, you don't even know this is happening in his head. He's just thinking, what's out of place so that I can leave this room in a slightly better condition than I came into the room with? Well, you sleep, let me just kind of throw it out there. This is the way I thought of it. I sleep about 8 hours at night. That means I'm awake 16 hours. So the question becomes, if I'm going to take, during each of those 16 hours, I'm going to take 5 minutes every hour for 16 hours, that every room I enter, I'm going to leave it in better shape. That's 80 minutes a day. That's almost an hour and a half of cleaning every day. Now you tell me, if in the next week and a half, next 10 days, you spent an hour and a half every day tidying up something in your life, do you think that would have a measurable impact on the image that you are presenting to the world? Listen, if our job is to get our client's financial house in order and keep it that way for the rest of their life, and the one way we can impress people when they come into our world is to just send out all the subtle subliminal messages that say, man, I don't know anything about this guy, but his desk sure is neat. His office is immaculate. And oh my gosh, have you ever ridden in his car? It's spotless. You've got almost an hour and a half every day that if you would just build the habit of setting an alarm and saying, I'm going to spend 5 minutes every hour for the 16 hours I'm awake for the rest of my life, then you'll notice that not only will the physical manifestations of your life start to present an image that's perfectly aligned with what you're trying to convey to the world, but I'll tell you this, I get more things done when my desk is clean. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. And my whole staff will attest to this. When Mark's desk in his office is in perfect order, he gets more done. And I'll leave you with that thought. Listen, if you want to know more about our company, I put a link below. You can feel free to join our program. There'll be a link to be able to do that. That's learning the instructional information about what we recommend for how you exceed client expectations. And that's important. But as I've said over and over in the Mindset series, the real issue is, have you made the decision to put everything aside and build a business that will achieve your objectives? And if you have made the decision that you're going to put aside all the getting ready to someday, maybe sometime become a master at this, put all that learning knowledge away and let's get into action. If you're ready to do that, I'll also put a link below to where you can schedule a breakthrough strategy session, what we call a business management session, so we can understand what you're trying to achieve in your business. And through that meeting, we can determine if, in our opinion, you've got what it takes to really achieve the goals that you've set for yourself. But either way, we'd like to help you. So I'm Mark Little, and we'll see you next time.